Here we are again. It must be Thursday night, and I am on with Conscious Mind Tripping with Audrey Newmont. And I have to say, today I have some things to say. Let me drag in some people to play with me here, to be part of my little stuff. So I got my YouTube working, and I got my Facebook working. And I'm looking for my people to come and join me, because it's always so much better doing this with friends. We'll invite these guys, Reynaldo and Denise. And I thought I already invited here. Invite. I like hitting all these little buttons. Ding. Ding, ding. There's Miss Angie and Brian and Gary and my sister Erica. I'll invite some people I've never invited before too. Melody, Mary Pat, and Bridget and Carla and Patrice and Kirby and Beth, Robin and Sherry. This is fun. So, hey, Jen's here with me. Are you at the Simi Valley Hospital? We're going to have to work on keeping you out of the hospital, Miss Jen. Seriously. And there is Nicholas Newmont joining me here. So I want to start out by sending Jen some prayers over there in the hospital. We're going to just trust in the health of your body. I've been working with a lot of people lately who have had some health challenges. It's a very big deal. I get it that they haven't found the right antibiotic. Well, let's all take a minute and hold you in prayer. And just know the truth that your body knows how to work through this. Our bodies are miraculous little things. I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. But in the meantime, I'm going to start by doing some announcements. Well, as you all know, we have Mainstream Metaphysics that we do on Tuesday nights, Nick and I. And these past Tuesdays, we were talking about the fifth dimension. We're talking about energy, talking about implants, and some unique experiences that we have had. So it's been rather interesting on that show. And I also want to say we have brought in a new person to work with us. His name is Ted. I can't pronounce his last name at the moment, but he does this integrative body work. It's Rolfing, and it is just powerful business. So if you need some structural work, he's really good at it. And we have some classes that are coming up. Nick has Psychology of the Chakras next Saturday. And if you are a body worker in any way, shape, or form, and you want to know a little bit more about the psychology of the chakras, it's a fascinating class. And Nick is ever so clever when he teaches it. So check into that. And then you can always go to newmontcenter.net, and we have our calendar there where we have all of our events going on. And there's Kathy Joe, the last from the past, Miss Kathy Joe. She is somebody. And then there's Kimberly. So good to see you. I'm wondering if Kirby is there with you. I'm so glad to have you all join me because I really love having company. Last week, I think with the 4th of July holiday, it was kind of me, myself, and I can talk, but it's much, much better to talk with somebody. Actually, Kathy, you're one of the people I had an interesting moment with. And I think I sent you something. I had that dream about your brother. Hi, Kirby, you are there with Kimberly. So I had a dream about Kathy Joe's brother, and it was really powerful. And I very rarely have moments like that. And I think I called you afterwards and let you know whatever that was at the time. I forget exactly what happened in it, but it's fascinating this whole experience of people coming and going. And by going, I mean them passing away. I've actually just recently had my father move on to the next expression of his beautiful soul. And we're going to go for the memorial service, or the celebration of life, as it were, with my family, coming up in a couple of weeks. It was powerful. I forgot exactly what it was, but it was like a message that I had to give you. And I don't usually do that. It was very strange, but it was also very called. And speaking of being called to do things, I want to reiterate again, doing this show, this conscious mind tripping, it wasn't something that I was like, I woke up and I said, oh, I have to do this. I've got to do this show, because Nick and I are already doing mainstream metaphysics, and I would think that that would be enough. But with everything that's going on in the world right now, and this very big challenge that's so important for us all right now, that we're all kind of working through, because it's it's not just that we had this like COVID moment and we're done. It's that we've had this shift. I mean, it has definitely been a shift. It's not something that is over. And there's things that are still going on that are important for us to become aware of, to recognize, and to move through. And I just want to start by saying a little bit about me and why I do what I do, and why I'm doing this conscious mind tripping show, podcast, whatever you want to call it. I used to be a hairstylist, as Miss Kathy Jo knows. We worked together for years, and we had our great moments, and then we had some challenging moments along the way. But Kathy and I, we always come back to here, which is a good place. And in being a hairstylist, I mean, pretty much everybody goes to a hairstylist unless you're cutting it yourself or you're having a family member cut it. And there's the part about when you go to a stylist where you're talking with them, and it's one-on-one conversation. And usually for in my case, I did a lot of hair color. So I would talk to people for 2 hours, like once a month for 2 hours. So you develop these relationships with people. And I wasn't a therapist back then, but man, do you hear people's stories. You hear, my thing is all wanky over there. You hear about what happens in people's lives on an intimate level. And as a stylist, you're not a therapist. So you're just simply asking questions, and you're having compassion for them. And for myself in particular, whenever I was going through a hard moment, I would really want to hear about their stuff. So it would distract me from what was going on in my own life. And it's amazing the amount of people who will talk to a hairstylist like they are a therapist, and the stories and the stories and stories. I mean, from hundreds of people over, I've been doing this since I was 18, and I'm 58, almost 59 now. So it's a long time to listen and talk with people on intimate levels. And the reason that I say this is because I keep hearing the same thing over and over again. So I've had some new clients come in just today. I had a new client, and I've had some new clients this week, and it's almost always a very similar kind of story where people have these moments in life that are hard to work through. And one thing that has come up over and over again lately, yeah, you're right, Kathy. We give them advice, and we end up being a therapist. But to get back to what I was saying, this is something that I'm seeing across the board of what's going on with people. They're coming in, and because we have gone through such a strong, I mean, like heavy moment, and it's across the globe, there has been all the trauma of the moment. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. It's like our heart, it has the capacity to do so much. Our heart it's got its little brain in there, and our hearts, it's always putting out electromagnetic energy. And it's kind of like what I call the trunk of the car, if you're thinking of my car analogy. And over years, I can't even express to you enough. People get to me and they have held on to all these moments of trauma in a lifetime. And they've held on to this pain over and over again of various things. And they get to the point where they come to see me and it's like they are battered and they're beaten up and they're like, I can't keep going on like this. And so they'll sit down and they start telling me their story. And in telling the story, sometimes they go into a lot of detail about it, and this is what happened, and then this is what happened, and all these things. And Kathy and Robin are in there communicating with each other. I worked with both of them together in 1980. It was a long time ago. So when people are coming in and they're telling me these stories, much of the time as they're telling me, it's like they're reliving it in the moment. It's like they're right there. And it can be something that happened 30 years ago, and they're still feeling the anguish of it. They're still feeling the pain, a lot of times the guilt. So I want you to think about it. It happened 30 years ago. And here they are, and they've been carrying this with them all the time. And it's like I've had many moments, and I had one today where in the moment, that person, they were still experiencing the pain and they were blaming themselves. And I looked at them and I said, it wasn't your fault. Oh, you don't understand. I did this or I did that. And it's like, no, it wasn't your fault. You didn't cause that. It wasn't intentional, was it? I mean, did you want to have that happen? They were looking at me like, are you crazy? No, I didn't want it to happen at all. So when I explained to them that what happened back here, when it's unintentional, and in this particular case, it was something that they were angry about. And because they were in an angry moment, they weren't thinking clearly, and they made a choice to do something very benign. And they just weren't thinking about it. And in that decision, it created this huge catastrophe that they've been carrying with all this time. And when I was able to explain to them that how it wasn't their fault, and just to be clear, everything that I share with people, your belief systems are the controller. So what you believe back here, what you believe about who you were, what you believe about what you did, they're a controller. And then on top of the controller, the buttons that make things happen are the intention, attention, and perception. So for all these years, this situation, she had no awareness that it wasn't her fault. So she's been carrying it all this time. And then in this now moment, when I share this information with her and I show it from a new perception, it was like watching something that was miraculous. And I don't even think that she's fully gotten it yet. But there was this, oh my gosh. And there was this lifting. And it was almost like she even sat up straighter. And it was like a whole new perception of what had happened back here. And it was really empowering. And it was like the opening of the door for her to go through and then let go of a lot of the other trauma that had happened in her life. So I can't even express to you enough how important it is to, and I do this process with a timeline. And I wrote a few notes down here today. And wait, before I get into my notes, what is Miss Jen saying? You know what's funny? This thing about being in relationships that were horrible and letting people linger, that's another one that is super common. I mean, I did it myself. I stayed in a relationship, two of them, many of them, much longer because of whatever the reason was. So it's not that you blame yourself for staying in the relationship. When you're in the choice point now, this moment is a choice point, and this moment is the only moment that there is. So in this moment, we say, my intention, that's what leads the way, is that I want to create valuable relationships with people that treat me with respect, with kindness, consideration, that we have a good time with, that we do all of these fun things. So the intention in being in the choice moment is all that there is. And You look at the past. Why would I pick these people? Why would I stay with these people? It's not who we are. It's just what we do. So many times I say, go look back at how your parents were in the relationship. A lot of times the mother keeps putting up with behavior from the father and just keeps pushing it aside. Let's just let it be, let it be. So we, the daughters in the back seat, or the son in the back seat, everybody's choosing partners. We learn that's what love looks like until we learn otherwise. So Jen, there's a part of it where you look at your timeline. I chose this guy with the consciousness that I had at the time. I did what I did. Nothing wrong with it, nothing bad about it. You had some good times, you had some crappy times. The thing that's the most important is you're in this time and in being in this moment. Yep, see, there it is. You saw what your mom put up with your dad. We're trained to do that. That's just what we're trained to do until we train ourselves otherwise. So then when you're now in this moment, there's this process, there's this work to do where you be introspective and you're looking at your life and it's like, what did I learn? Oh, it's just what you learned. You get to choose otherwise. Your brain has all these neural pathways. So things are always happening. We're always learning new things. We're changing the roadmaps in our mind. So that roadmap that says, I just have to put up with this. This is what I deserve. I'm not going to find anybody better. Whatever those thoughts are, that's the illusion. And that's creative. So when you're changing that neural pathway in your mind, when you're rerouting, when you're creating a new road for your beautiful car to go on, you say, I'm going to choose consciously. Like when I met Nick, who is on here somewhere, I think, I had picked some very interesting characters, as Kathy, Joe, and Robin are aware of. I picked some guys that were just not the greatest. And there was a point where I started going to Agape and they said, you have to know what there he is. He's giving me a little heart. They have to know what you want. You have to know what you want. So I sat down and I created a list. And I was not going to settle for anything less than the list. So I'm holding a space where I'm saying, I'm not going to choose anymore like I had been. I'm going to choose consciously, intentionally, the first button. So I created a list that was, he has to have character, morals, integrity, a passion for what he did or does, the ability to love and be loved, the ability to communicate. He had to be interesting and interested. That's huge. A lot of people out there that are not interested, and a lot that aren't so interesting as well. So that interested is a really big one. And then he had to be clever, funny, witty, and financially secure. So all of those things were my list. And I put it out there. And in putting it out there, there was a part of me that I knew this is what I'm getting. It's not, I'm hoping for this guy or whatever. And the other part about putting out that list is you are owning the list. So it was around that time, and that part about integrity, character, and morals. It was at that moment I thought, you know what, I'm not going to lie. And I just made a very conscious choice. If I'm doing anything in my life that I need to lie about, I'm going to stop doing it. So since that point, I've told little lies because of my daughters. And mostly about not going to school or something along those lines. So I think it really helps because that's one less thing that's weighing on your mind. It's like covering up lies is a hard thing to do. So at any rate, I own the list and knew in my heart and knew in my mind, this is what I'm creating. And I also recognize what I had done in my past behavior, why I chose the guys that I chose, why I put up with whatever I put up with. And I landed with Nick. And it's been really good. And to be clear, and Kathy, I'm so glad that you said it. it's not a mistake. When we're picking the people that we pick, it's not a mistake. And that's something that came up today in one of my sessions. It's super important to get whatever happened. I love doing the timeline work because it's so valuable. If you think about the timeline, everybody has one. And in the choice point, here's the choice point. In this moment, you get to choose whatever the thing is. And you're choosing and owning what that is your intention, right? So I got to show both cameras here. So when you're owning that intention, there was a part of me that said, I'm going to own that I'm creating this guy and I want to have this kind of relationship. And then I have to keep my attention on the intention and keep it going that way. So if I have a moment where like, oh my God, there's no good guys out there, then I have gone down into an alternate perception and I'm going back to the old stuff. So like as an example, Jen here, you have been learning all of this and you've been changing your life in major ways and you're liking your new Mr. Guy right now. All the others were practice. So you intentionally went out to create this new relationship and owning it in a way that is for you, this is what I'm doing. And it's super important to get that we're all in this choice point right now. And we're all being creative. So when we're carrying the stuff of the past, like this client I'm working with, she goes, it's kind of like it's a big burlap sack and it's been on my back for all these years and I'm just carrying it along with me. And I'm like, you're exactly right. And she goes, how do I get rid of it? And it's the way to get rid of it. And especially this is the main thing that I wanted to talk about today. For many of us, many people, and some that I've been working with lately, it's like we have learned to suppress our feelings. We've learned to suppress the stuff. So instead of it being like for instance, she went through a fair amount of traumas in her life. And I'm talking about her because I just worked with her, but I mean, it's like across the board. We all have this going on. We have something that happens back there and it's very traumatic. And many of us have learned, I don't want to deal with it. As an example, another person that I worked with today, they had a physical challenge come up. And it was just a physical thing of like tossing her cookies. But because she's had an experience in her life of a lot of physical trauma, immediately her feelings went into feeling anxious. And because she didn't want to go there, because she didn't want to deal with it, she intentionally, as she said today, she goes, no, I just pushed that down. So instead of recognizing the anxiety, oh, this isn't right now because this is something that's not that big of a deal. Kirby, you're distracting me. You tell her she better pay up with that $150. So when she, instead of just recognizing the anxiety and allowing herself to be like, all right, I get it, this is anxiety, but this isn't the same thing that I have been dealing with for my life. This is this moment now. When she suppressed it, you got to remember, when you are feeling what I call fear feelings, it creates a lot of stress in the body. It creates a lot of adrenaline, cortisol, stress hormones. We go into the fight, flight, and we're not present here in our body, and we're not thinking clearly. So this thing that turned into a little, could have been maybe something, I don't know, benign, turned into a huge big deal. So when she's in today and she's understanding, she suppressed those emotions. And then in the process of working, she's able to work it out. All of a sudden, I'm seeing her and she's feeling a lot better. Same thing with this other person. Same thing with all the people. When you get to that point where you make it okay, it's like the other thing with this, with one of these people, they said, it's like I put it all into a Pandora's box And I'm afraid if I lift the lid on the box, I'm just going to be screaming. She's in good company. A lot of people feel like that. I better just throw all of this stuff in the trunk. I better put it all aside because I don't even know how to deal with it. And it's turned into a huge mound. Hey, Brandon. Hi, Audie. So good to see you guys. So it's turned into such a mound of stuff that it makes it like I can't even begin to look at it. It's too much. I can't deal with it. So I told her, she goes, well, how do I deal with it now? How do I get back to, and it was very interesting because many people as well, especially when they're younger, this thing that Nick and I were talking about with the fifth dimension that we're in now, and really being able to own our connection to source. It's like the veil is getting much thinner, and we're all able to connect and own that. I want to say like the fullness of ourselves, the power. And so this woman had also told me that when she was younger, she had this moment of like super connection. She had this moment where she was just what I call, being that I am. And then it was like gone. And then in her lifetime, she's wanted to get that back, but she couldn't get it back. So then she now in this moment is asking me, how do I get that back? How do I find it? And I told her, it's not that you have to go outside of yourself and find it. It's already right where you are. It's a part of us. It's who we are. But when we have all this stuff that we put into the backpack or the burlap sack or in the trunk, whatever you want to say, when we take and suppress and suppress and suppress all of those emotions, it's all like on top of us, and it's really hard to own the fullness of us. So I told her, I said, I want you to imagine it's like if you were to have a big balloon full of that stuff, and you just poke a little hole in the balloon and the stuff starts coming out slowly but surely, and you're letting it go. Or if you want to use this analogy that I had used before, it's like things get too full and the glass starts overflowing and it's too much. So you want to keep whittling it down little by little and letting go of the stuff little by little. Because if you do it all in one big shot, it's kind of very traumatic in its own self, and that keeps you out of or takes you out of your kind of homeostasis. And now it's like, well, I'm a little too fixed now, and I don't know what to do with myself. So with any of it, it's a process, and you do it little by little by little. I've talked a lot. It's already 7:30. So I wanted to talk about something else because that I think is important. So to finish it up, for those of us that have learned to suppress our emotions, it's okay. Nothing's wrong, nothing's bad about it. But in this moment in time, when there is still such an emotional upheaval and there is too much in us and it's like uncomfortable already, own your ability to work through it. One thing at a time. Look at it with new perception. Start owning this ability to let it go. Was it intentional what you did? If it was, you know what? Go about the business of, what's the word? It's not forgiveness. Go about the business of making amends and make it okay. Who you were there with the consciousness that you had then is not who you are now. So when you are looking at it, if it was not intentional, you literally, in letting it go, you say, I didn't intend that, and I'm going to let it go. And if there's things with other people that they have done, you look at it and you say, whatever that was, they did with the unconsciousness that they had. I don't know if they changed it. Doesn't really matter. But when you are letting it go, what you're saying is, I don't want to hold on to anything from the past. I don't want to hold on to what somebody else has done. I don't want to hold on to what I've done. So there's a point when you're letting it go, you're able to be in this choice point and then intentionally creating where you want to go. I know I didn't want to be alone or fail. Can I just say, that is one of the big reasons that people stay in relationships that are unhealthy. I have worked with many people. It's like, why do you stay in it? And all the reasons are, I don't want to be alone. It would be too much trouble. I don't want to deal with their anger. I don't want to deal with whatever. So we stay in relationships instead of going and finding the love of our life and letting the other person find the love of their life. We end up staying for all the wrong reasons. And to be clear, got one time here, just one time on this planet. And if you're not with that person that's making your soul sing, find a way to make it sing with the person, or move on and find that person that makes your soul sing. Or sometimes people just want to be alone, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But if you're turning into the Bickersons, conscious, constructive communication, working through these things, and especially when we've all been on COVID together, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's really important to be working through this stuff. So I want to go to my other subjects that I wanted to talk about today. And this one's going to be controversial, just saying. But I'm a little annoyed about stuff, and I got to talk it out. I got to work through it myself. And there's things that are being said and done that I just don't understand. So I'm going to tell you one of my little dark secrets. I watched The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. My sisters and I used to watch it when it very first started. And Nick and I, it's like mindless entertainment. And Nick and I, being therapists, we look at it like, oh, that one's never going to work out. And this one's got whatever going on. And that one's got whatever going on. So we just enjoy it. It's mindless fun. So I'm watching it actually by myself the other night. And they had commercials that came on. Now, I don't usually watch the news, and I don't watch commercials because I'm usually zipping through them, but I was folding my clothes. And so I'm folding the clothes and I'm just watching the commercials. And there was one that came on and I was like, what the heck? And I want you to be very clear. People who make the commercials, they put a lot into those things. They put a lot of time into them. They really look at, how do we manipulate people's minds? How do we get them to do what we want them to do? How do we get them to believe what we want them to believe? So I'm watching this one commercial in particular, and I was like, are they really doing that? I mean, seriously. I have it on my phone, but I can't bring it up for you because I'm using my phone with Facebook here. They were talking about what they were going to discuss on the news coming up, and they were talking about fascism. I said that right. Fascism. And then they bring up all these different faces of all these different ethnicities and whatever. And they said something about how when we meet somebody, we judge people by their face. And that's fascism. And we're going to be talking about that on the news. And I was like, what? What in the world are they talking about? I want you to be very clear. When we meet anybody, everybody's got whatever. We meet people, we get their energy. Are you going to call it energyism then? Are you going to say, oh, you know what? I'm judging you by your energy. Your energy is, yeah, exactly. What the? And it's like, we're in a moment right now where we're literally being so manipulated with so much stuff. I want you to be very, very clear. When you're watching TV and you're looking at commercials, they're wanting you to go and do whatever that thing is, buy that thing. They don't really care about what's going on with you. They want to sell their news. They want to do whatever the thing is. And there is a big push right now where people are being manipulated. There's a person that calls it being consciousness captured. Your consciousness, our consciousness, is kind of one of the biggest things that we have. It's why on my notebook, I'm showing people this all the time. I mean, all the time. Can you see it? Yes, you can. This is everything right here. This is how your brain operates. And we have all of our belief systems in here. So when you're in hypnosis, watching TV, when you're in hypnosis and you're going to the movies, you're in it and you're being manipulated in some way, shape, or form. So it's super important to step back when you see these things. Right. Exactly. You know what, Audie? Excellent point. I can't see the whole thing, but it says, why can't they come out and say how to be respectful, love, and be kind instead of this bullshit? They focus more on the problems. Exactly. And we're all being mind manipulated, consciousness captured by watching all of this. So I can't even express to you enough. It is super important when you're watching these things. One of your first warnings is you get a feeling. Fear is a big one because on the same evening I'm watching these commercials. There was a commercial that came out about taking the HPV, that vaccine that will prevent you from getting cancer. Now I know personally, and one person in particular who had a very close family member who took that thing and they got massively sick, massively sick. And it's to prevent what? So if I'm looking to prevent something, why is this creating this? They don't tell you all of that stuff on those commercials. They make it seem like, oh, you have to do this. So they're bringing up your fear. So it's important when you're watching any of these things, it is for the young, but I'm telling you, there's so much around it. Google it sometime. HPV virus vaccine, whatever that is. I shouldn't even be saying that word because we've got this whole thing about it's important to understand when you're watching any of these kind of commercials, when you're watching stuff that makes you feel what I call your fear feelings, whether it's fear itself, if you're feeling angry when you're watching it, when you're feeling, confused, when you're feeling stressed out, that's a manipulation. Exactly. And you're right. That's exactly what they were saying. And it was to parents, you should take this because you're protecting your kid that way. Not really. It's like my friend Kimberly. She just put out Kimberly, you can look up Inside and Out Naturally, Kimberly Bennett, Dr. Kimberly Bennett. And she just put a post out there today and she's doing she's exactly what I'm talking about because she said in the post that she put out, it's really important to understand that your body, when fed well, when you drink the right things and you breathe clean air and you are keeping in a state of calm a good amount of the time, your body knows exactly what to do. Your immune system knows how to deal with stuff. And for Nick and I, over the years, I can't even express to you how many times we work with people and we send them off to our team of experts. They come back and they're better without taking pharmaceuticals. They're better by using their mind, by using their feelings, and by understanding how their body works and doing the process of cleaning it out and eating healthy and doing all of those things. They not only get healthier, they stay healthier and they have much more energy. So if you're watching these things and you're feeling like you have to do something and it's coming from a state of fear, really back up for a second. You can still do it, but do it informed. Do it from a place of conscious logic, reasoning, deduction. Do it from a place of, I want to be informed, and this getting back to the thing about the fascism. It's like, it's very close to racism. It's very close to fascism. I don't know exactly what they're thinking to do with it, but it's super important to really get, we're all just people on the planet. We all, like I have said before, we bleed the same blood. We do the same processes in our body. And you're right, Audie, it's like when we are loving each other, we're respecting each other, we're coming from a place of wanting to be in our own life and live in the emotions, learn from the emotions, and be with each other with that, with kindness, not only do we change ourselves, we change the world. But when you're watching things and you find yourself in a let of fear and you feel like you have to do something because you're being told to, maybe you do need to do it, and that's okay. But do it from a place of conscious, comfortable intention. This manipulation, I think it's really unfortunate. And that brings me to another thing that I wanted to talk about today. As I'm looking, I have a little bit more time. And by the way, thank you all for joining me, Audie and Jen and Nick and everybody. I can't see everybody who's in there right now, but I appreciate it. Yeah, focus on the solution, not the problem. Yeah, it is life-changing, right? Well, you would think about it. I mean, well, hold on. It's like me being here in the hospital. They are fear tactic me and trying to force me to take things I know won't work. So own your power, Jen. And I want everybody to really take some time right now and to send you some energy, some really good healing energy. That's very powerful. But we've been taught, I can't even express to you, across the board with all of my clients, there are common things. One of them is we have been trained to focus on the problem. Well, here's the problem. I get it. But you don't understand, Audrey. Here's the problem. I get it. And here's the solution. But no, here's the problem. I get it. I mean, it's this continual having to bring people back to how long do you want to live in the problem? Or are you in the moment of a choice and you want to start owning your solutions? It's your choice either way. But there's that part of breaking that mind washing of the problem. And I'm the first to admit, I used to watch the news all the time. And I used to see the problems all the time. And I would go, oh, there's some big problems out there. There's all these solutions to each and every one of the problems. For the world, there's solutions for us individually. But as long as we're focused on the problem, you can't own the solution. It just doesn't work. You can't be in both places at the same time. You can see the problem. You can recognize it. I see that this is something that we have to address. It's not great for all of humanity. So it is something that we have to address. How do we address it? What are the actions that we can take? How do we move through all of this stuff? But as long as we're in the problem, we're in it. We can't be over here in the solution. A good example of this, I've had many parents so worried about their kids. And to be fair, I've had many moments of worrying about my kids, especially when I was an earlier parent and learning all of this myself. And I came up with one of my little analogies for it. And this is for all of us. So there's usually the analogy about the car. You're driving the car. You have all that stuff with it. But this is an analogy about a boat. So the boat represents the body. The driver is the soul. We got our little kid in the back seat, and we have our higher self. And with a boat, we're going over the waves of life. We're all doing it. And as you're learning more of this, instead of the waves being like this, and it's like quite the ride that we're taking, you start to smooth out the ride and you start to make it a lot easier, right? And you start to make it much more where you're staying at the top of the roller coaster, at the top of the wave. So in this analogy, we have those people that we love and they're tethered on the back with rope and they're on skis. And when they're having these hard moments, they're under the water and just their little noses are out of the water and they're like struggling back there. And so because we love them so much, we're like, oh my gosh, you know what? They're struggling. Oh my, they're not above the water. They're having a hard time. This is not good. This is not good. I'm worried about them. What if they go under the water and they never come back up? These are things that we think about and we worry and we stress. And as we're driving, instead of we're going forward, what we're doing is we're turning around and we're not having any traction for them. And I was talking with this woman, she was not a client, one time, and she was telling me how sick her child was. And they were so sick. And it was hard. And there was all this stuff. And it was just on and on. And it was like, in listening to her, I was imagining she's like driving the boat around the kid. You know what I'm saying? If you want to help anyone that is tethered to you, that you love, that you value, it's like you have to put down the gas on the boat of appreciation. And that gas is going to move you forward. And that gas is going to help move you and your boat forward so that you can get some traction on that line, so that you can help whoever it is get back up on the water and able to own their life in a powerful way. As long as we're focused on their problem and we're worried about them and we're stressed out and this is hard and this is bad and oh my gosh, we can't help them. I had this one moment when my daughter was a teenager. I'm not going to say which one. And it was a really bad day. I mean, a bad day. And I kept being over here. And then in my mind, I'm like, oh, no, I got to be back over here. I got to know how powerful she is. I got to know that she's working through this and she's owning her power in the process. And it was this battle with myself the whole day. And I held it in prayer. And I, at that time, had my whole practitioner group that I hung with. We all held her in prayer. And it changed, and she owned her power. And it was like she was able to get back up on her skis, and she is just soaring in her life. Not without these moments. But I'm telling you, it's important when anybody that we love is going through what I call a dark night of the soul. If you want to help them, imagine them working through it. See them owning their power. See them learning and growing and getting on the other side of it. Help them to understand their intentions and where their attention is. It's super important to not be over here and circling them. So I'm hoping that all made sense. And the other part of all of this, as I have a few more minutes left. Does anybody have any questions? I see all you people in here. By the way, speaking of that thing in the hospital, that's another part of it. You're in the hospital, and I can't even express again, because I see so many things with people. People go into the hospital, and it's like they can't figure out what's wrong with me. And so they're trying this and they're trying that. And I had my own situation. I think we talked about it recently, but it's important to really talk about these things enough. And I had a moment with a doctor, and this doctor was a chiropractor, and he's telling me, oh yeah, you know what, see this x-ray, your body, it's like your spine is all messed up. And I mean, he just kept going on and explaining how arthritis and this and that. And I started to feel sick. And finally I looked at him and I said, is it fixable? Oh yeah, it's going to be fixable, but you're going to have to do all of this stuff. And I said, well, stop talking about the problem and let's just get on to the fixing part of it. And then I had asked him, is there anything that I can take that would make this better? And he goes, no, I don't think so. Well, because I hold myself in prayer, this magical product came along, and I started taking it, and it had a lot of collagen in it, and it was mixed with hyaluronic acid. And I'm telling you, at that point, I would get out of bed, and it was like I was creaking my way out of the bed. I took this stuff, and my body, it was like the Tin Man and putting oil in. And it was like, wow. So I told him about it, and he just wanted nothing to do with it. His whole thing was about fear and about getting a package signed. So you have to pay for all of these sessions to fix whatever the thing is. And in the meantime, now my back is totally fine. If I do have to go to the chiropractor, there's no fear there. She just cracks it and I go on. So when I had that experience, I had some people that were going to the doctor and they were like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. The doctor is saying that I could have this or I could have this. And it would look like, whatever the the outcomes could possibly be. And if it's this, you're going to have that. And they were terrified. And I remember the very first time somebody came in and I looked at them, I said, to be clear, it's well within your right to tell the doctor, look, whatever you think the problem is, let me know when you are clear what the problem is. And then I don't want to hear all of the hard things that could happen with it. Tell me, is it fixable? And how we go about the business of fixing it. You don't have to be terrified in your own body. There's so much medical technology, there's medical solutions, there is a whole range of things that can be done, and a lot of it is natural and holistic. That's where I see a lot of the greatest healings happen. So you're well within your right to stop a doctor from talking if you feel afraid, and look at that doctor and say, listen, just tell me, what is it and how do we fix it? And if we can't fix it, how do we make my body happy for as long as we can? That is well within your right. All right. So Nick had high blood pressure, and I think we just talked about this recently, that thing with blood pressure. There's all these ways to get your blood pressure down. Nick literally caused himself the high blood pressure. He was literally screaming at somebody, well within his right to, because it was a really bad moment we were experiencing with this person. And he said, oh my God, you're causing my blood pressure to go through the roof. And I looked at him like, did you just say that? Sure enough, not long after that, he had high blood pressure. So he actually went to the doctor, and the doctor put him on meds that I think made it worse and made him have some bad reactions. And it was around that time that we found Jeffrey Sherman. I still miss him. At any rate, Jeffrey helped him by putting him on all of these natural supplements. And I want to say that his blood pressure was fixed within like 3 or 4 months. He's not got any problems with his blood pressure now. So when you think that you have high blood pressure and this is a lifelong thing, it doesn't have to be. You can change your diet. There's things that you can do that are holistic. Part of it is owning your ability to be calm. There's all these things that you can do to fix that. So just know within you, Jen, that you're going to get that blood pressure down, and you've got some adjustments that you get to make in your life. The last thing that I want to talk about today in my 5 minutes here, and this is another very important thing. I want you to really get you come first. Yes, you. Whoever you are that's watching this, you come first. Not your kids, not your husband, not your wife, not anybody else in your life. Yeah, Nick is saying 130 over 78. It's really important to understand you have to come first. If you're not coming from the fullness of you, if you're not coming from being grounded and centered and focused in love with you, and you're giving and giving and giving all over the place like everybody else is more important, they come first, it doesn't matter. If you're not happy, if you're not giving from the fullness of you, if you're just giving everything away, nothing matters. So what you do in your life, do it from you being happy. As an example, I see many people saying yes, 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 when they really want to say no. But they think they have to say yes for whatever reason. So in all the yesing that they're doing, they're giving themselves away, and they get to the point of depleted. They come to the point of resentful, angry, frustrated, whatever that thing is. And they can't have the love. They can't have that great relationship with themselves or the other people. So your homework for this week, because I give homework, look at the different areas of your life where you put other people first. Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's like, I'd rather do whatever, but I'm going to go do that because I'm making a conscious choice. but then I'm still keeping the balance in my life. But look and see if you're giving yourself away, if you're giving too much. And maybe sometimes what we're doing is we're giving a lot and we're not asking for anything back. It's all right to ask. It's all right to say, I would like whatever. We're in a reciprocal relationship all over the place. So not just with our partners and our kids, but in our business lives, all over the place. So give from the fullness of you and give unconditionally where that is. Give to people. Gloria, I love you. So give from the fullness of you and give to strangers. I think we're in a moment right now where everybody has been shell shocked, and we're in a moment where we're going through some interesting stuff. So the more that we give and love and give from the fullness of ourselves, it's like we're being the sun and we're shining brightly because we know that it's a full supply. We don't have to worry about giving ourselves away. We're full. So do nice things in the world. Go be nice to somebody. If you see somebody having a hard time, give them a smile. I'm out and about in the world, and it's amazing how many times I see people that are they're not looking at me. They're not looking at anybody. They're just kind of like not there. So I'll intentionally just give them a smile. And it's like they look a little surprised at first, especially if I'm like out on a walk. And then it's like, they're like, oh, and they smile back. That little smile can mean a lot in somebody's day. So random acts of kindness, folks. We're going through a little bit of a thing right now. So be nice to each other. Be considerate, be compassionate. You never know what's on the other side of that. I know that we hear that all the time, but it's super important in this moment, I think. So with that being said, I have 1 minute. So Nick and I are going to be on Mainstream Metaphysics on Tuesday night. Would love to have you join us over there. I bet you're loving all your nurses. You're just like a little ball of sunshine, Jen. I think maybe there's a party you go in there to just you can bring your sunshine with you. At any rate, much love to all of you. Join me next week here on Conscious Mind Tripping. I believe I'm going to have a guest, somebody very special that I just adore, who has an incredible story. They don't know yet because I haven't asked them, but I think that you will love the show. So join me next week at 7:00 here on Conscious Mind Tripping. And if you would like to know more about us, Nick and I, here at Newmont Center, you can go to newmontcenter.net. And I'm at audreynewmont.com. And that's about it for tonight. Just sending you all a big, big ray of love and light. And I'll catch you later. Bye. And bye.